Hey everybody, this is Mark from Northwest Bourbon. Thank you for joining me. We're going to have a whiskey quickie with Michters. Now, well, no secret, I've never had Michters before. So if you are in the liquor store right now looking at a bunch of bottles of Michters thinking, I've heard Michters is good, but I don't know which one to get. Well, don't worry, I'll try them all for you, and I'll let you know which one I think you should get. Now I'm going to keep this real short and sweet. I'm going to skip through a lot of the process. I'm going to open all these bottles. I'm going to pour the first shots into my infinity bottle, except for the rye. And then I'm going to put them on the Turninator, mix them all up, try them so I don't have any bias of which one I like better. Then after I try them half blind, I'll let you know what I thought of them. Sound good? Alright, hang on. We're going to fast forward. Alright guys, so I went through and I nosed them all, wrote down some notes, then I tasted them all and wrote down some notes. And I bought this as a complete set. I bought the 4 of them. They came together in one package on a website because it was on sale. They were doing a Michter's 4-pack bottle sale. And so I grabbed it because I had heard from so many people that Michter's was amazing and I had never had it before. But I'm telling you, to give you an open and honest review, if I went down to the Michter's distillery in Kentucky, if I got to do a tasting of these 4, the only one I would buy is glass number 2. Now let's see which one was glass number 2. It's the American whiskey. I totally thought it was going to be the bourbon because I'm such a bourbon lover. I know that the ryes are usually not my jam when I compare them to a bourbon. I like ryes. Ryes are good. But when I have it side by side with a bourbon, I prefer the bourbon every single time. The Sour Mash is just a really high rye whiskey, right? Now the Michter Sour Mash is 45% corn, 45% rye, and 10% barley. So it's a really high rye whiskey. And to be bourbon, it has to be 51% corn, which makes it a little bit sweeter, less of those rye spices, and it usually hits my palate a lot better. And so since I'm such a bourbon lover, I totally expected that I was going to pick the bourbon out of these ones, but it turns out I picked the American whiskey. From what I understand, the American whiskey is the exact same mash bill as the bourbon. It's 79% corn, 11% rye, and 10% wheat. The only difference is that bourbon has to go into new oak barrels. The American whiskey goes into barrels that were soaked in whiskey, so they're not new barrels. And from what I understand, that's the difference. But when I tried all 4 of them right up against each other, the American whiskey is the one that I prefer tonight. Cheers. Yeah, I think tonight, just the way the flavor profile is hitting me, I think the American whiskey has the best balance that I'm looking for. I mean, the bourbon's really good. I'd put that in second place, and the rye and the Sour Mash, I'd say we're tied for third. It depends on your preference, but hey, you can find all 4 of these bottles for anywhere between $35 and $50, depending on where you live and where you shop and how much your state tax is. But they're a good deal. I would recommend the American whiskey as your first introduction to them because it's got a nice smooth flavor profile. And you know what? I spent as much money on this one bottle as I did all 4 of those. And so I would do that again every time over this. And that's my unpopular opinion today. Alright, let's move on to the Bad Bourbon Joke. Yep. Alright, so a teacher is trying to teach her class a lesson. So she brings up 2 cups, puts water in one, and puts bourbon in the other. And in each one of the glasses, she puts a worm. After some time, the worm in the bourbon dies. And she says, "Okay, class, what did we learn today?" And little Johnny raises his hand and says, "If you drink bourbon, you don't get worms." So there you go. There's your Bad Bourbon Joke. Please like, comment, subscribe.